Welcome again, everyone. Bill and Jim here. Jim, you're on?
I'm right here.
Good.
Ready to go.
We had kind of a short week. We traveled, you traveled all week. I traveled Wednesday through the end of the week. I guess next week we should probably one day put out a 4 or 5 hour window to take questions, so we can do a true Q&A. You know, we've kind of gotten away from that.
I'd like to start that. Put it this way: give the folks a chance to ask their questions. We see so much happening and so many important things that we tend to find conversing on those very important to you and I.
Right. So
now, what's important to the listener?
The listeners, keep your eye out. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, something like that. We'll put out a notice to
send in your questions.
And I am going to ask that you title your email with one word that says question, so I can
Perfect.
pick them out easily. And please don't write more than 2 or 3 sentences. Get right to the point. Because
it's extremely hard for Bill with and now that he's entering into the mega email world. Okay, I mean, there's no way.
What was it, Jim? You got something like 6,000 or 7,000 emails in one day.
I shut down 3 AOL accounts at that time with the max limit of 6,000 each, and my archive is over 1 million.
So let's talk about this week. There was a pretty serious push put on Trump and the administration, and of course Flynn resigned. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, it would seem if you look at the just general equity markets, it might have been, you might say, a quiet week, but it has been far from that. In my opinion, where it comes down to precious metals, there was an occurrence that is extremely important that actually needs review. Equity markets, there's always one thing you and I remember, and that is that the death throes of an economic society sometimes have rather peculiar effects on the indices, such as Weimar, such as the African markets, Zimbabwe. So I think if we took a look at one very important day, you had an absolute flush in the early morning, both gold and silver, which immediately turned around and ended up plus on the day.
Right. It was an outside day to the upside.
Now, as a kid, I learned a good lesson from a very senior trader at a company at that time called Blythe. And, I was young and, full of myself. And, I saw a weakness, or what appeared to be weakness, in one of the items I was making a market in. So I went into Blythe and offered him $5,000, which in those days was huge, okay? Today it's nothing. And I remember him saying, yeah, done. You got any more for sale? Of course, I was short. And I said, no, not at the minute, but I expect more, and if I do get it, I'll come back to you. Next thing I did is I called up Barney McNeil over in Vilas and Hickey and said, hey, Marty, buy me 10,000 shares of whatever the dickens it was. And I'll give you an age's profit of 1/8 of a point. While we trade down pennies, is a lot of money.
Right.
So he would have made $1,250 or $1,250 per thousand.
Yeah.
And he didn't make the cover, and I saved myself from horrible embarrassment. When that gold came down like a stone, looking exactly as it did through the market manipulations, it did something it really rarely ever did before. Came to a screeching halt, turned around, and closed up on the day. And what that means to me as a professional trader is that somebody's doing something I used to do, pretending to be what was in the marketplace. Now, you and I and the listeners must understand, I know, that the Exchange Stabilization Fund is one of the key traders in the gold market, free and able to do whatever they wish to do, and it's been very much a link in or cog in the wheel towards the constantly lower price, the takedown. Well, that wasn't the Exchange Stabilization Fund. That was somebody trying to look like him.
Right.
There's been so much profit made on the short side that you become so accustomed to being short and making money that changing or even going neutral is very hard to do. That happened twice. So this is the second time we've seen that, and we really haven't seen that ram down since then. The market slipped away. I think whoever was going to pretend to be the Exchange Stabilization Fund and pick up whatever they thought they could do on the short side, that was a grand 2-day trade, and it's over. So the action in the metals market indicates to me that the primary manipulation in that market has probably shot its bolt, and it's being traded now on the short side by hangers-on. And the hangers-on usually get cleaned out. So I think that in a technical sense, not technical analysis, but what I mean is looking at price versus time versus who's doing it, I think we have a shift. And I don't think the short side on the on gold or anything related to it, silver or anything related to it, is as firm and professional as it has been over the last 4 years. And as we were discussing before, there's been some chart indications that would be extraordinarily rare in a bear market.
Right, we got the golden cross.
Yeah, and normally that's that brings on very significant attention of people who subscribe to that. So that to me means an awful lot.
Jim, let me just explain for listeners what we were talking about. We were talking about the chart that I posted a couple weeks back, the weekly chart of gold, the weekly chart of the HUI. You can see the 50-day and 200-day moving averages cross to the upside. That's the grand golden cross, if you will. And then if you look at the MACD, that has hooked higher, crossed over. And generally speaking, when you get a crossover, you get a move for at least 6 months to a year in that direction. It generally takes 6 months, a year's time to get to another extreme. So well, I'm really optimistic over the next 6 to 12 months. We could see some pretty good fireworks.
I join you in that, Bill. I absolutely join you in that. And the, sort of the inside, the market, the company effect, the stocks, there's a strong feeling, I know I got it, that rather than being on the defensive, there's a chance we go on the offensive now.
Right.
And that's a huge change, okay, because we spent 4 years doing everything possible just to avoid the manipulators and their actions and especially their intentions.
There's no more fruit for them to shake. I mean, basically, if you look at it from a big picture standpoint, the weak hands are out.
Well, that's for sure. That is absolutely for sure.
Anybody who's holding gold, silver, anything now are holding it very firmly.
Well, I'll put it this way. I had an annual general meeting this week up in Canada, and everybody who was in attendance at the meeting attended as a friend and a well-wisher. That's, very impressive where I'm concerned. And also shows that the weak hands are done. And one thing you've noticed is that the trolls seem to have been getting tired or not getting paid, because even that, against any and all, seems to have modified.
Yeah, it has slowed down for sure.
Yeah, all you got in them now is the guys with 5 different names that do it every day because that's their life.
Yeah.
But what that was before is not today. So there's a lot of coincident signs that there is a major turn at hand in terms of a sustainable trend. And I subscribe to that for all the reasons that we all know or we have already discussed. The other I think important, and you had some thoughts on this, Bill. The war between those that lost the election and Trump is intensifying. And you'd almost think that their greatest hope would be to knock Trump off his center, meaning to just bother him to the extent of why in the world did I ever do this, and to make him look less presidential than truly his recent presidential orders has demonstrated he is fully qualified. And this it's almost a mania. The left has revealed itself as not tolerant in the least. In fact, the right is more tolerant. We lick our wounds, walk away, try again in 4 years. But they haven't allowed the process of the election to end, in the sense that 7 articles one day attacking the President administration, and all fake news. So it seems to me, Bill, I don't know if you agree, this thing isn't slowing down. This crazy campaign to unseat the President of the United States somehow, in a frenzy by those that had lost, is intensifying.
Well, Jim, these leaks that are coming from wherever, the spy agencies.
We might as well say it. I think the spies have gone rogue.
It's what I'm getting at, or was going to get to, is, in my opinion, I think what you're seeing is literally an internal civil war within government.
Yeah,
who's running the country?
You got the apparent administration, and you've got the dark administration.
Right.
And apparently, the dark administration has been very used to getting their way. And that's a hard fight. I mean, if your intelligence agency goes rogue, it's a hard fight. But I think they're taking it on the wrong person. Trump already shows where from what he's had to face.
Right.
But he wanted it. He got it. He has it. He will give up on it. Before this is all over, I think mainstream media, the voice of the dark side, if you will, or the dark administration, is going to be silenced by lack of confidence. I mean, you just go around and look at the different channels of news. That's what I was doing before the telephone call. And the soft junk that's coming out of the common prior respected, compared to those stations which are more tolerant of Trump's administration, and you've got to see,
logical.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you get sick watching things that mean nothing. Okay, noticing that very important events in the world have no comment whatsoever, and going absolutely bats over a ship off our shore by 30 miles, which, by the way, is totally legal, and we do it all the time. I mean, the idea that we never do these type of things. And one ship, as Trump said, if he snaps his finger, that ship would be vaporized.
Right.
What in the world are you worried about?
Yeah, I think the media is going to be, if you use the word, exposed.
Media is going to be exposed, and we do have some superstars out there that we've got to give credit to. Greg Hunter, and Greg, with CNN. Greg was Greg was held a position of extreme influence over what went on with CNN, and I don't know if it was my interview with him that cost him his job. But it was the fact he told the truth. And I think people are showing a higher degree of intelligence than they've shown before, with a greater degree of interest that they've shown before, in electing this man on the basis that he might actually represent them. And if you hear the dog barking, I got to shut the door to the room.
Just a little bit.
Okay, listeners don't mind. I'm going to just go and shut a door to keep the pack out of our conversation.
Well, Jim, I told Greg Hunter privately, in my opinion, when all is said and done, he's going to go down in history as a Walter Cronkite.
Apologize for that, but real hard keeping four of them quiet.
I don't know if you heard what I just said. I told Greg that I think he's going to go down in history as a Walter Cronkite.
Well, we all owe him a lot, okay? I mean, he lost his job. He went on public TV. He predicted almost everything that happened, if not everything. And for having told the truth, and for having seen what was happening and seen the time frame of what's happening, his career was crashed.
Yep. And
he's come back beautifully. And we all owe him. And I think we're going to make a shift to the Greg Hunter types that become the best source for news.
Yeah, he's a true journalist.
He is.
Done it on his own and doesn't owe anybody anything. Just tells what he sees as to be the truth.
And now, he speaks articulately, honestly, forcefully, and directly to what I think is a crime against the people, the issuance of inaccurate or skewed news. I mean, that's what you do when you're putting out the type of news that's a lie, is when you have some agenda, and your lie fosters that agenda.
Well, Jim,
the Nazis were right. The bigger the lie, the longer you tell it, the more people believe it.
Right, and the bigger the lie has to become. As an
Constantly
example,
repeated.
This past week, when the news came out that Mike Flynn had conversations with the Russian ambassador.
Yes.
And was, resigned, forced to resign, whatever. If you look at the way this has been portrayed, it's being portrayed as, Flynn's a traitor, Russian this, Russian that. But what people are forgetting is this was apparently a conversation that the NSA picked up because they were bugging the Russian ambassador's phone. Now, think about the seriousness of this. We now threw a very big card down on the table. So every ambassador from every country in the world has already thrown their phone away, gotten a new encrypted type of phone.
And we'll do it on a regular basis.
And from the standpoint of they did not follow the law, because the way the law reads is that if an American citizen is on the phone or in a conversation that's been tapped, they're supposed to back off. I guess I'm not sure.
Not supposed to spy.
You're
not supposed to spy on your citizens or allies.
You can't blackmail somebody, in other words.
Yeah.
And
I think the key point there was the leak.
Right. Exactly.
In other words, not only did they misbehave against the, I think, law and spirit of the law,
they used
where the U.S. is concerned, but they really went over the fence and off the reservation when they leaked it.
Yeah, and they used the information.
Yeah, and what that is getting information out purposely to try and stir up derision within and without a new administration. If I had to guess, looking at this man's career and history, I would say he probably did it, but I think for a different reason. And being a soldier, he fell on his sword. But I think he was told to, and I think there was so much red meat being thrown out to start World War III in the last 2 months of the election period, if he carried a message for you or me, it would be, believe me, I have no intention of goading you into a war. Okay, we got differences, but who knows? Maybe we can settle them. This is political. Please be blind to it. And he would never say that. Okay, but I think he carried a message from Trump to Putin, not to react to what the crazy Democrats were doing. I think he may have saved us.
100%.
I think he may have saved us.
Yeah,
and being a real soldier, he'll give up his reputation, his life, okay, for his president, for his country, and for his Constitution. Even though the man wasn't president at the time, you would, I would. Messages can't be sent by any kind of electronic transfer. I mean, this telephone call should be, is heard by all. So there's not a thing you can do unless a person goes between, carries the message,
right,
not on a notebook, but in his mind and heart.
Yep.
And he's a trusted person who goes to whoever you want to have receive the message and whispers it in his ear. There's no other way. I mean, everything I say, everything you say, everything our listeners say is public. I mean, we live in more than a police state, okay? We're smack dab in the middle of an equation which is for control of the world. And Donald Trump is not a member of that group.
Yeah, he's trying to break the fishbowl.
Yeah, he didn't go to the right fraternity. Okay, he didn't hang with the right guys. He didn't take money from anybody. And in fact, he doesn't have to take money from anybody. And they're after him every way. Insults his daughter. I mean, if his wife was called a hooker, okay, this week. Now, what do you think would have happened? What do you think the press would have done to anybody who publicly said that about Michelle Obama? Destroyed.
Right.
Okay? It takes a lot of guts not to get crazy, and not to let yourself react from your emotions. And calling his wife a hooker, and what he, as any man would, and it might have been a mistake, but he did defend his daughter, and lightly but firmly. Wouldn't you defend your daughter?
Absolutely.
I know I would. So,
daughter, wife, anyone in the family.
Yeah, they're trying to take him apart. They would love to see him, with his with his hair going back about 3 feet.
Well, there's such a double standard, Jim.
Yeah, but it's so intense still, okay? And confidence is what all of this market, money, currency, gold, silver. All of these markets stand on confidence. Some go some way, some go the other way.
Yeah.
How do you maintain confidence if MSM is exposed as tools of the elite? You've already got to see that a lot of the country has had it with the elite, and on top of that, this liberalism is somewhat of a religion that has exposed itself as being very, very, very dangerous. Tolerance and all that, just forget about it. I was going to
use the word evil.
Now, what happens if confidence is lost across the board? Well,
it's game over across the board.
Well, it is game over across the board. Now, what I don't know, you might, but I don't, is whether or not any advisor to Trump or Trump himself really realizes the degree of instability financially, globally. I don't know. Because
let me answer that for you, Jim.
Please.
He just hired David Malpass.
He did?
Yeah, he did. He's an economic undersecretary.
Bear Stearns, I remember. He came out of Bear Stearns.
Yeah. He's knowledgeable. He totally gets it. Judy Shelton is an advisor. And I actually saw a piece on CNBC, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, late afternoon, and they did a piece on her, and one of the people suggested she might be a choice for Federal Reserve.
Well, they're dying. Okay, the Federal Reserve.
Those two know, Jim. I mean, they get it. And
yep.
I don't know if you saw it. I just sent it for post. Kitco had this up, and I don't remember who it was that interviewed him, but he absolutely got it in the 60s. He understood gold. He wrote that long piece. He was an Ayn Rand protege.
Yes.
And I guess it was, 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago in New Orleans he spoke.
Yes.
And talked about gold. And this interview that he just did was about gold and the gold standard, and he gets it. He totally gets it. So to answer your question, I'm sure that Trump absolutely gets it, and I say this because of some of the people around him, but also some of the things that he said. Just little short snippets. He mentioned, and I can't remember whether this was after the election or before the election, but he was asked about gold, and I believe he's a fan of gold, and he actually said that the gold has been going from the west to the east. So I think he absolutely knows that the gold is pretty much gone.
Well, you know my feelings. I'd have Bulldog with 100 special forces guys without any introduction at two places: the Federal Reserve vault and the supposed vault at Fort Knox.
Right.
And I would know what we had to the penny. I might not make it public, but it would certainly help me in making my decisions when it came to economic policy.
Well, you could not make that public because if you did, there would be markets would not open from that point forward.
Hell would collapse on you. But if we had that gold, that really would be quite wonderful, except we don't. Okay? And if we did, there would be a real audit. And 56 wasn't a real audit. You got a real audit. I mean, I go through this yearly, quarterly and yearly, is the opposition. When they come in, they want to find you fiddling something.
Yep.
And all they look for is any malfeasance of any kind whatsoever. And they dig in there like a starving man in a dumpster. And it gets crazy. A true audit is a very serious undertaking. You can't audit yourself. I mean, that's a contradiction in terms. That's an oxymoron.
Exactly.
And the government auditing itself means nothing whatsoever. If you really want to know, you got to bring in some of the forensic hard asses, if you will. The guys that know how to who recognize a fiddle to find where things have gone, and that is most unlikely because if it's not there, somebody's very rich, or some people, plural.
Did you see
rich.
the LBMA is this coming week saying that they're going to become more transparent and release bar numbers and how much gold is held and blah, blah, blah?
Well, that's kind of shocking. That you shouldn't say, "Oh, isn't it wonderful?" They're finally coming around to honesty. But I'd say we'll see if they really do.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, because it's all been sleight of hand before.
I said jokingly, I've said this, I don't know, half a dozen times, that the Chinese could take their gold and put it in the Olympic Stadium, put it right in the center of the stadium. Show the world we have the gold. Now show us yours.
Yeah, that sounds like two kids of puberty, but but that's exactly correct. And the way, you know my feeling, it's the mechanism of the reset is the transition between over-leveraged paper 500 to 1 and physical gold 1 to 1, setting the price of gold at way above anything that we had expected 5 years ago.
Well, that was my point. The Chinese, if they were to do something like that, the Chinese could wait 2 or 3 days. We've shown you ours. You show us yours, and when that's not forthcoming, they could basically decree the price of gold.
Eventually, they will, you know.
Right.
Russia and China, because of the transition in the mechanism, and clearly the inability to counterfeit gold in a physical market. You know, when you have 1 ounce of gold and you issue 500 ounces of paper to the one, you're a counterfeiter.
Right.
Okay? Just straight, all there is not a legal short sale. You're counterfeiting. And if you then manipulate the market, you take counterfeiting from a risk trade to a felony. And if you do that, and it has been done, how long does it last? How long could Madoff continue playing his game, or for that matter, Yellen her game?
Well, this has been a felony for several decades.
For several decades, but it builds on itself. It's 500 to 1. Are we going to 1,000 to 1? No.
We're going to 1 to 1.
That's exactly correct. We're going to a cash market.
Yep.
And that's the mechanism of the offset. You know, when we say offset, everybody thinks we're going to release Merlin from his lovely, very comfortable cave. And Merlin will come out with his, of course, wand and handful of pixie dust, do his thing, and everything will change lovely. It's not by edict, Bill. It's by a mechanism. And the mechanism is not in full control or even in partial control of the. You know, what I'm saying is the mechanism runs the price, will create the new reset. The reset will not be created by edict, magic wands, or Merlins.
Let me explain this so listeners understand what you're saying.
Please.
Jim is saying that a breakdown of trust, a breakdown of confidence will lead to the non-acceptance of paper, the non-acceptance of derivatives off of gold, and only the acceptance of gold itself. That's your way to a cash market.
Yep, that's your reset. Where
the demand will only accept the real deal.
Correct.
So
it's when it comes, it's coming fast. Just as 2007 came real fast. And just as you didn't have to be Einstein to figure it was going to happen, you don't have to be Einstein now to know it's going to happen. It might be nice to be him and know the day it was going to happen, but you don't have to. There's no question.
To be Nostradamus.
Nostradamus. I'm sorry. You know, I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever as to the correctness of Bill and my analysis dealing with the why and how gold will find the higher level. And I don't believe that that's, again, in my grandchildren's lifetime. I think it's in mine. And, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, so I'd say a lot. You don't
like green bananas.
Yeah, well, it's coming. It's coming very soon. Okay? And, you know, the idea of being prepared. Let's just think for a minute if you were underneath that dam that broke. And all of a sudden, the sheriff is at your door saying mandatory evacuation. You think you're going to be comfortable if you didn't have, excuse me for saying it, a bug-out bag?
Right.
Take the people who are are still our frontiersmen. They are subsistence livers, mostly in the north. Well, if you live in a log cabin, you have a duffel bag next to your front door. For what? Fire. What if it's 30 below zero, and you run out in your long johns because you live in a tinder box and you heat by wood? You better have a tent, a sleeping bag, clothes, food, and the absolute basic necessities of life, because you're running out into death. I mean, and you are in your skivvies. So being prepared is what Bill and I are talking about.
And
being prepared financially, being prepared emotionally, being prepared physically, and above all, being prepared spiritually. You got to do it. You're never going to make it unless you have firm beliefs. They could be whatever you want them to be, but you got to have firm beliefs. You have to prepare, and we put a lot of attention on financial preparation, but we also look at every other type of preparation that costs you nothing. I mean, you went and took a look at my where I store our food in the cabinet. I mean, you would think that I'm a peanut butter nut, okay? But it's protein. By the way, it tastes good. I've always said that the two people, the God invented air conditioning and peanut butter, but that was two good things. You have to be ready for what's coming, and it can't take you by surprise, nor can it take you into depression. I mean, we exist because we're survivors. We exist because we're soldiers. And that's my Irish half. They're always looking for a battle, okay? And somehow it finds it. But we're still here, still functioning, still breathing pretty good. Financially, okay. Maybe not great, but okay. And, our turn is coming.
Jim, let me add that because you're talking about a bug-out bag.
Yes. Your
bug-out bag financially, because we live in a system that is based entirely 100% plus on credit, your bug-out bag is real money that's not in the system, and that's gold and silver.
Yeah, and especially junk silver and things that can be recognized as being at one time money, now worth significantly more because cash is worth much, much less. And the reality of that is go to the supermarket and see if you can buy a loaf of bread. And if you think that's over the top or tin hat talk, take a trip to Venezuela.
Well, yeah, I was going to say there won't be any bread.
Yeah, just take a trip to Venezuela, go into a supermarket, get back on the airplane, come home. You know everything then. No further discussion required.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's happening in front of your eyes. What's cheaper? How about sending your kid to college? Okay, what in the world is cheaper? I mean, I went to a prep school as a kid. Big deal. $45 a quarter. Okay. Now those same schools cost a yearly tuition of $50,000.
That's a low number, Jim.
I know, and it's shocking. Hotchkiss in Salisbury costs more than going to Harvard or MIT for a full 6 years to doctorate. Back in my time.
Well, even in my time.
$45 a quarter to be beat up by the Irish Christian Brothers. They should have paid us. Okay.
Well, on that note, Jim, just want to remind listeners to keep an eye out. Wednesday to Friday, we'll open a window to send some questions in. Next week, maybe we'll try to do a rapid fire, try to get through 20 or 30 questions as quickly and diligently as we can.
And even if we do go overtime, I'm sure you'll forgive us. Maybe.
So, well, anyway, Thank you, Jim. Have a great week. God bless our listeners. And I forgot to say, today we're doing this on Saturday afternoon. I believe today is the 18th. So,
yeah,
anyway,
we shifted to Saturdays because we think Saturday to Saturday is better.
Exactly. All right. Well, have a great week, everyone.
And Bill, it was wonderful seeing you up in Canada. And
I enjoyed
the time we spent together.
I enjoyed it.
Bye now.
Take care.